oil lamp at this moment. I would like to have Professor Abhaya Induruwa, chief guest. Professor Emeritus, Professor KKYW Pereira, Professor Anand Jayawardena, Professor Gihan Dias, Professor Kirti Vardana, Mr. Eshan Devapura, CEO ICGA, Professor Gihan Vikramanayaka, Professor Rahul Attalage, Mr. E.K. Vittanage, Professor Sam Karnaratna, Mr. Damini De Silva, Mr. P.K. Vikramaranchi, former CEO SLT, Dr. Kavan Ranatunga, Mr. Harsha Vijayawardena. The speech will be delivered by the Professor Gihan Dias, President ISAF.LK. So please come to the podium.
So distinguished invitees and society members, I'm really glad to see so many people here. Actually, as you can see, we have pretty much exceeded the capacity of the room. So when Professor Induruwa said he is only available these days, I said most people will not be in Colombo, and I was sort of thinking maybe we will not get anybody. But anyway, we sent the message around, and some people actually got the message only just today, but somehow they managed to turn up. So thank you very much. So I think Professor Abhaya, our former Vice Chancellor, who was actually the person behind all that which will talk about Professor Induruwa's role in starting academic networking in Sri Lanka. So I will not repeat that, but I will just mention a bit about the Internet Hall of Fame. This is something which the Internet Society every year they award a certain number of, or they induct a certain number of people into the Internet Hall of Fame. So several people asked me, where is this hall? So there is no actual physical hall, but of course it does have a website, internethalloffame.org. So if you go there, you will see the current list of 22 inductees who were inducted in Hong Kong last week, and of course all the people who were inducted before that. So these are all people who have in some way or the other contributed to the 88, 89, like it was almost impossible. And now of course internet has become something which everybody uses. So if you are a small child, you see running Facebook or WhatsApp or whatever it is. So this is basically what the Internet Hall of Fame is about. Making the internet mean something which is so pervasive that we do not even see, and it honors all the people who have done that. And Professor Induruwa is one of the few people from Sri Lanka who have been inducted into this Hall of Fame, and it brings a lot of honor to this country to know that we here are on par with many other countries in being recognized for our work on the internet. So, in order to introduce Professor Induruwa, I will invite Professor Abhaya, but before that, let me say a few words about Professor Abhaya. So, he was the Vice Chancellor of the University of Moratuwa in the early 1980s until 88. I always credit, I think not only myself but many people, of completely beautifying the university from a very dusty place, which really didn't look anything very spectacular. In fact, weather activity, that's what it was, to being something we who instigated the starting of the department of, at that time, computer science. In fact, very few people know that it was actually started as Department of Computer Science, and later on we changed the name to Computer Science and Engineering, as part of the initiative of people like Professor to develop computing in Sri Lanka. And then Professor Abhaya can also and of course we have some of the people who were there at that time in the audience today. And so then he helped, or he is the one who started the department, but Professor Induruwa somehow persuaded, I think so Lucas at that time, head of electrical engineering, to let Dr. Induruwa join our department. So, in fact, I think like I was saying, if Professor Sam had been here, he would have never allowed it, so we waited. Professor Lucas was said and then do the transfer. And anyway, whatever it was, and started the department. And of course, once the department started, one of the major things we did was the internet in Sri Lanka, or the internet within the network within the department, as well as the internet in Sri Lanka. And let me also mention about the major conference we had, NetCon 95 in 1995, where in fact Sanat was also there at that time and running around playing cables and so on, where we actually showed internet making the time where nobody had ever seen it before. Okay, so that's all I really have to say, and I will stop there.
Thank you, sir. Now, next I would like to invite Professor Willie Mendes to give the introduction about Professor Abhaya Induruwa. Sir, please come to
Thank you once again for that introduction to a lot of people here, which makes my startup a little easier. And to recognize people in this audience, I think I'll be spending 2 hours doing that, because everybody is well known to each other in what they did at Maratua. The 80s, I just want to give you a little backdrop on what inspired us who came from an engineering background, but subsequently in a different discipline towards managing a university. 80s was really the paradigm shift in technological changes in the country. You get the RC Clark Center coming into place, you get the IFS coming into place, you get Syntec coming into place, you get the vendors and the manufacturers of electronic equipment expanding their market share. There's a lot of inspiration that was taking place in the country at large. Some of us certainly got involved in some of these policy-making bodies, and that prompted a lot of thinking what we in the university also should be thinking about. In doing so, 2 or 3 documents gave us in management a kind of roadmap. One of them, as those in Malta might recall, we had a computer policy report chaired by, I think, a very good chair. And that helped to give us a kind of a vision translated into reality. At the same time, we had a corporate plan for the university also done. For that, of course, I must not fail to recognize Mr. Devaradu, who was an accountant, who was on our council, whose firm brought us into a kind of a certain format for corporate planning, which was different to a business organization or any other form of organization. These state institutions had their own modules to be done into corporate plan, and it was not a huge task. It was very nicely done by these people, and they were, I think, released 2 accountants full time. to be at the university, visiting department by department, and that set a broader vision to complement the Computer Policy Committee's work that was happening. During this time, the department was also, the university was also inspired by the parallel push by the Chancellor at that time. We have AWW now, but we had Dr. Clark at that time. And Dr. Clark was very keen that we start the Arthur Clark Center. The competition was whether it should be in Colombo, whether it should be in Morato, whether it should be in some other location. And we did have a little battle over location, and somehow we convinced His Excellency at that time was also working on higher education with Dr. Karpage to locate it at Morato, opposite the university. And that decision was also partly, I think globally, which set the country into five by moving from something that happens next and then the next and then the next and get to the top of the ladder. We had to straight away get into technological leapfrogging. Now this was also partly pushed by few people who work in the ministries. I can't help but tell Professor Abhaya at that time and Mohan Singh at that time. These people were also pushing the academics to work in those lines. The reality in economic terms were pushed by the BOI at that time, which was the key driver of change of technology, where they brought in people, investors like Harris Technologies, and these people who came firstly to visit Morato and asked, how many graduates do you push out in engineering? So when they hear our small numbers, I can still remember one guy just went off, he didn't stay to discuss, because when you talk that only 25 are graduating in computing, or that's the proposal we have, or electrical we had 50, or I don't know Sam how many were at that time. Those, when you tell those numbers, these people obviously gave a face that didn't show much promise of Morato, contributing to this huge change that was being promoted in what was called technological leapfrogging. These push and pull factors only inspired us, along with these key documents that I told you, the Computer Policy Report and the corporate plan, to make some structural changes. The three departments that we taught at that time, and we had a little advantage at that time, remember 2 days after I took office was the riots began, 83 riots. Huge change. First day I had a suicide in the hostel, some guy died. Then the next day I had a student stabbing another student and that fellow died. And when you came in the night to look what happened to the student, full dark, completely dark. So now here the fear, I didn't have fear at that time, I didn't know the context of the campus hostels, and no roads, nothing, you can't see a light, no street lights, nothing. So that's the one that Bihan mentioned, that we as planners, we begin to change the physical structure also, and create roads, create open spaces, create kind of environment which gives change into a university type environment where safety and aesthetics were also built in. So these were going in parallel. But the three key areas which we felt was important to change was helped by the fact that the council was virtually dissolved, I think, at that time, and the Vice Chancellor was made the competent authority. So every month this letter comes saying that you are one-man show. So you have to deal with student problems, you have to deal with murders, you have to deal with riots in the campus, everything you have to do. Same time, you make key decisions on these changes. You don't need to have a massive consultation with outsiders, but other than your own heads of departments and deans and the registrar and the accountants. So moment you have that advantage, decision making becomes a little more convenient. And this dragged on for about 23 months, if I remember right, which helped these key decisions become reality also. The three agencies which we thought will make a paradigm shift in the country's economy in terms of human resources contributed to it. One was computing, naturally for that environment I told you, technological leapfrogging. The other was quantity surveying, which was needed as an infrastructure development where you need people to number crunch whatever you are constructing and estimate and deal with dispute resolution between contractors and owners. So this was another area, and we had a very energetic professor who will know more with us, Professor Abhaya. I have to tell that chap was one of those who was very keen on starting that. The third one was, Dr. is not here, Professor Abhaya Induruwa, who was live wire in textiles. Now this was also the time when textile manufacturers, some of them who are leading now, came and was discussing with us about the kind of infrastructure in terms of human resources and the equipment that can be brought in to make the changes in there. And at that time, right, without the minimum waste of the material. Now this kind of thing immediately told us not only were these three areas, computing, horticulture and textile, could change the country, it also required high-level graduates to come out, and number two, required this integration of departments. Now, this was very critical, and that was the most difficult to achieve, where one department won't support changes in the other department, and this this battle took a long time. And I think it's an ongoing battle because now, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, that's a battle that happens, getting people to go across from one department to another to not only give lectures but also to integrate their modules. Although we have now converted ourselves into a semester method and module method, these modules don't interchange, and the courses that I think it really is a loss, because the module interchange and integration only brings the best out of these graduates who may pass out finally either in engineering or in computing or in IT or in architecture, whichever, or background planning, whichever they do, this integration was important. Then came that part which took a little time with Rohan releasing Abhaya to come and start a department. Sam had meanwhile got the mainframe computing culture into the university anyway, and we then thought we'll embark on this creation of the three departments. Professor Caldera in quantity surveying had a head start because he had his builders quantities and valuers course in NDT already there, so he had the basic infrastructure. Lakdas also had his textile people already with some basic infrastructure. Problem was Abhaya's, because he was starting from zero base. No rooms, no equipment, no tables and chairs. I don't know, I can remember. It's a zero base start. That's where the enthusiasm of the younger people, we both are different from 20 years ago, aware, but I can tell you that's the time our age was ideal to pioneer things. First of all, getting that room released. Not one room, we had about 3 rooms released in the Pires building. I don't know what it's called now. Someone else building. Someone, I think we negotiated with mechanical who were shifting down and getting these 3 rooms. And then I can see the technical officer here, he was here. Where is he now? Oh, the governor is there, that's right. These people really got the basics of tables, chairs and cleaning up, and shockingly getting it air conditioned as well. And then nice curtains, all the beautification process began there. And then we were able to get a vendor called D.A. Abhaya. I don't know if he still exists. That guy gave 25 ZX Spectrum, small table, tiny like our today's gaming gadgets. He gave 25 of them, and then we started this so-called computer science department with the first batch, and the syllabus structures and everything then went quickly through the Senate and decision making, because as I told you, VC was the competent authority. So we were able to quickly go through the process and get that initial part done. And Dr. Kalpage, I must say that Dr. Kalpage was very supportive. He gave a lot of backing in terms of getting this off the ground. And then came how many students to admit. And I think we decided to get 25. 15, 60, right, 16, and admission requirement was slightly different, not going through the usual engineering batch, but directly from the UGC list to select 16, and I think you got the pre of the pre, and if I remember right, I think only 10% of them must be here now. Some of them, I can see the staff, certainly, he is one of them. And some of them went for their PhDs thereafter, but the first batch inspired those of us in management that here is a start that was worth it, because they began to experiment with real life prototype projects. And here was the robotic fellow turning the antenna on top of the architect building to receive signals by simply manipulating the computer, desktop computing. And we also then had a link, because of this technological change being publicized, we had quite a lot of support from the donor community, particularly the British Council. The British Council rep at that time used to regularly visit Monitor, and through that negotiation we were able to get the next stage of desktop computers called BBC computers. Now this probably was the high tech of the desktops at that time, and these we got, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 into the campus, and then the word spread. Industry began to also start donating. I remember Mr. Rohan Apugel, again, like Mr. Apugel from industry, began to give. Then it struck me, developing the computer science department with Abhaya's enthusiasm was insufficient without electronics also supporting the complementary roles. That was a tragedy, because Professor Abhaya had left at that time, Professor Abhaya had left at that time for their onerous duties of the government. And we had to do with Mrs. Diawan, so I don't know if she is here today. She was, like Abhaya, she was willing to work 24 hours and getting that electronics department transformed. And she benefited by that, because the Japanese grant, we were able to virtually change the structure of that department. And I think the integration between computer science and electronics began to show up. And then I think even electrical, Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, the microelectronics importance of the main electrical services began to start showing up. And therefore the changes were becoming clear. And then came mechanical also showing interest. Professor P.D. Silva, if I may mention his name, he began to show interest in TEDCAM work in his own. So it's not the rates and things that were important, it's the automated machines that one chap can operate from a machine and work the assembly line through this. Now, you can see how the spread effect of the integration became. Who was at the epicenter of this? I must say, Abhaya, who was willing to associate with other departments and bring that into focus. Now, during that time, words like LAN and WAN became very buzzwords at Monitor. Local area networking was very important, wide area networking was important. Local area networking began to get some impact by National Panasonic of Japan, willing to donate the fiber optic cables into the university system. They did a diagram also of the circuitry of getting this fiber optics laid at Monitor, and therefore this networking concept began to take hold. The Panasonic one didn't go into the next stage of reality, but if I remember right, that plan was drawn and we went to these people. And then came the wide area network, meaning universities themselves networking. And then I heard from Dr. Induruwa that he goes for regular meetings of what is called the Learn Project. And that's the one that you all heard from Gian earlier, where the university networking began to take place. And finally, eventually, it became a reality, not all the universities, but Open University, Colombo and Moratuva. And we had a lot of support from Professor Samanayaka too at that time, Professor Samanayaka, who began to show that computer science doesn't mean only statistics and number crunching with computers, but he, I think, came often. Earlier there was little competition between Abhaya and Sam, I remember right. But then came the truth that the two must work together, and then that began to also take place. I had the fortunate thing being Sam and I were quite rapport was okay. So that helped to level the thing. And then we began to learn about this learn networking project. This was the time that we also visited, we wanted to involve the vendors into this whole idea of rapid expansion and merger. And we then got to know that most universities, the one that I physically saw was in University of Western Ontario in Canada. IBM had a special unit there inside the university, a building of its own, where they brought in the latest technology that they were doing in actual industry into the university and making the students become familiar with the operation of these, good for them in terms of future buyers of their equipment, but they operated that unit. So we contacted IBM here, and then of course I can see DMS here. All these people used to get interested, and finally IBM did agree to come in, but they had a condition which we couldn't really deal with. At that time, the culture was not for that. They wanted to tender using bids for projects using Notre University's brand name. That was the difficulty, and that immediately collapsed the idea of university was going to provide land, IBM was going to put up the building. All the staff students have access to their latest equipment that they would come, and we were going to, the difficulty in financing and supporting Abhaya's enthusiasm at that time in terms of equipment and maintenance was this buying equipment and maintaining it. Therefore, the IBM model was excellent. If they had started that building at that time, given us access to their technology, but the inability for us to agree to using multi-university brand name, because then they wouldn't have been bidding competitive. They would have just got all the tenders in the country and become monopoly in terms of getting non-competitive bidding. Whether this is possible yet, currently I don't know. It could be you're doing very well now in terms of collaborative ventures. So this could be something that might give the drive into that. Because subsequently my downside to what they were pushing, when they were pushing, was the cost of maintenance of this, the computer science department. Huge maintenance costs were coming in other universities, and this is something that we are worrying, and that's where the consultancies and other things began to also come. But that's where the whole thing rested on his shoulders, and I can see how the step-by-step approach took place. Unfortunately, when he said he was disappearing from Moldova, and when he had a chat with me on that, I had by that time blessed myself. My suggestion to him was, I know both of them had personal reasons for going to UK at that time, because we had established links with, I can't remember exactly who that chap was, but he was also working in the ministry promoting computing from, I don't think in Nottingham, some other place, Peel, that's right. And they were setting up the contacts, and I knew a matter of time before he disappeared on an assignment somewhere. And then he went on, and now I understand he's with Canterbury, doing a topic which is currently important across the board to computing. And I think people in ICTA must be also knowing, which is cyber security. I think as soon as he was appointed to this chair of the Samanaka chair in Colombo computing thing, my suggestion to him was whether he can inspire cyber security, where he is handling that at Canterbury, to come in, because hacking and cyber security have become the biggest crisis, and how it's going to be controlled with mobile banking and things coming into place now is a headache. And I think I said to him informally how the regulation and the laws could cover this. I think Mr. Suri, he was doing a lot on that, but that's not enough. I think it's going to be a major. The knowledge base has to come from the university, and I'm sure, and that's going to come from Abhaya. Abhaya, so that's my brief introduction of you and the backdrop in which it happened. I know you're not going to stop there, but I think your return is still on the cards. So you better think about it and do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the fine introduction about the Professor Abhaya Induruwa. And our next agenda item is presentation of mementos. So I would like to invite Mr. Hashi Vijayawardena to do a memento about the ISOC of Delhi. I would like to invite Professor Kirti Valgama, the CEO, to presentation of mementos. Professor Abhaya Induruwa. Thank you, sir. Talk on the internet where it is taking us by Professor Abhaya Induruwa.
Thank you very much. Before I start giving my presentation, I'd like to say a few words. Because Mendes has made my task very easy by filling in all the gaps that I had in my action. He said it's brief, but people who are listening, I'm sure, realized it was not such a brief introduction. He covered the backdrop starting from the very early days of University Moratorium. As Gihan said, we were having dusty walls and rooms to a beautified campus, and finally we started the 3 departments in 1985. And I feel deeply privileged and honored to have been inducted by you this evening. It's indeed a great joy to see so many of my students, my teachers, some of them students who became my work colleagues later, professional colleagues, friends, family, relatives, being closely connected with my life, throughout my life. Now, as I said before, I talk about the internet where it is taking us. I'd like to take a look at where we have been before, during the last several decades. In trying to do that, I was trying to figure out why should I stand here today in front of you. And there were key reasons and key people who were responsible for that. And as you have heard, we had let us impetus from Professor Mendes, the Vice Chancellor at the time, and his vision and the support that we got was the key thing that turned into the reality that we have today. People often say that you have to be in the right place at the right time. But my own interpretation is that you have to be surrounded by the right people. And I was very fortunate that I was amongst the best friends and colleagues during my time at University of Monaco. I came to Cottbus in 1969 as a student. Work had just begun on what is now called the Letson Dasa building. We were 100 students who somehow believed that coming to Cottbus at that time will change our lives for better. I was waiting to see because Ms. Dan Ravansa here would remember the time we did not have any proper lecture theatres. In fact, we had our physics lectures in what later became the canteen. There were 3 walls and a roof. So we shared the space with others, mainly cats and dogs. But we were determined to get the best from what was available to us. 2 new professors joined. Professor K.K. Vadapi Pereira and Professor Sam Kanada. Professor Rohan Lucas and Swayananda were determined and dedicated. They all worked tirelessly with others to give life, meaning and identity this new entity, University of Induruwa, was just formed. So in addition to learning power systems, electronics, high voltage engineering, control systems, I also learned that bold determination and stubbornness when necessary are two essential virtues. Professor Karnatha gave me the first job when I graduated, and he also witnessed my wedding and my daughter's wedding as well. As a graduate student in the late 70s, the closest I got to computer networking was submitting Fortran jobs through RJE system, remote job entry, to a CDC 174 mainframe computer. I returned to Moratuwa in early 1980. I returned to the Department of Electrical Engineering. One Saturday in July 1983, only about a week after his appointment as Vice Chancellor of the University of Moratuwa, Professor Mendis called me into his office and asked me if I would like to start a teaching department to teach computing or computer science. Again, as I said, I came from electrical engineering and I had learned Fortran across Lucas and so on. I have taught students Fortran. I used it for my PhD, but we were not very conversant with computing, teaching computing and computing science. In fact, even the world universities, they were just starting to teach computing as a discipline. So to help the IEEE Computer Society had just formulated the model curriculum for computer science and engineering in 1983. A closer look revealed that data communications and computer networking were two core subjects in this curriculum. In 1984, I visited the AIT, the National University of Singapore, University of Malaya, and the Hong Kong University to look at their computer science curriculum. It is during these visits I got a real taste of what computer networking and communications were. Between 1985 and 1989, I concentrated on capacity building at the University of Moratuwa. As Professor Mendis said, we were very fortunate to have this JICA government grant, and with that the assistance we established three main laboratories, one for data communications and networking, one for computing software development, and another one for robotics. We also set up a department-wide Ethernet connecting PCs to a central Unix server. Then the next challenge was to recruit and train staff. So I didn't look for electrical at that time. I started stealing the best students from electronics and telecommunication department. I got Professor Mihandais, Professor Navira, Professor Abhaya, they were all electronic students. The committee, Adams. So they were all my students. I taught them, and I started stealing them one by one into this new department, and that's how we started. So as Professor Mendis mentioned, yes, it was a big challenge to provide resources and then build the human resource capability. In 1986, we demonstrated the first data communication session between two TRS-80 Scenics. If anyone remembers that multi-user 3-terminal computer system, one at the University of Moratuwa and the other end at the University of Colombo. Using 300 baud, 300 bits per second modems, the sun is here, we used one of the telephone lines, running at 300 bits per second. But we were able to do a remote login and do a file transfer, copy using UC. So that was the very first demonstration of a data communication between the two universities. In 1989, while spending a sabbatical at the University of Kiel, I articulated my vision for a countrywide network, which I call LEARN, Lanka Experimental Academic and Research Network. In 1990, as a precursor, we introduced LearnMail, the first IP-based electronic mail exchange between Sri Lanka and the rest of the internet. Of course, prior to that, there have been efforts by our Smart Center. They used to allow proprietary mailboxes. Then they also had the private email providers, but this was the first IP-based mail service in Sri Lanka. In 1994, we were very fortunate. The UGC finally decided to give us a 3 million rupee grant. And with that money, we purchased the somehow persuaded Sri Lanka Telecom. And again, there were several engineers who helped us. We purchased 3 64 kilobits per second wireless digital circuits. And with those 3, we connect the University of Moratuwa to the University of Colombo and the Open University. So the first IP WAN was built using those resources. Finally, in 1995, as Ian said, we had a conference to showcase the LEARN's capability to the academic and research community. I think we had about 350 participants attending that in the civil auditorium in 1995, and finally the LEARN was connected on a permanent basis to the global internet. Since then, as Professor Mendes said, yes, I decided to leave, but several people have carefully nurtured the LEARN and who have devoted their time and effort to develop LEARN to what it is today. I would not have been able to travel through this journey had it not been for the support of many people and organizations. So I will fail my duty if I do not mention, so I'm going to take a risk and mention names. So today we are celebrating the success of a great partnership. So let me start my list. First, alphabetically, Clement Adams, Ian Dias, Gamage, Atul Herat, who was from the UK end, Imar Ratnayaka, Sumanavira, Sanjay Veeravarna. They all helped us to firstly run the mail relays in Sri Lanka, as well as in the UK, US, and Lalit was in Canada at that time. So that is how we started distributing mail through our network. Dominic Silva, Gilbert and others of the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, including all the Japanese Overseas Cooperation volunteers and the BSO staff. Doctors Chris Hawksley and Neil White of the University of Kiel, as Professor Mendes mentioned, we had a University Sri Lanka Kiel, it was called Ruhuna Kiel link, and they were quite helpful. Vice Chancellors of the University of Moratuwa during the period, Professor William Mendes, late Professor Batutikana, Professor G.T.F. De Silva, Sam Kanaratne, Deans of the Faculty of Engineering, Professors Charles Sengrad, Daniel Tenekon, and B.A. Tenekon, late Professor Amar Nayaka and the Computer and Information Technology Council, SINTEC, now it is known and restructured as ICTA, the ICT Agency of Sri Lanka, late Professors Kalpade and Balasurya, and Professor Arjuna Vihari, who served as chairman of the UGC at that time. Directors and engineers of the Department of Post and Telecommunications, that's what it was known before it became SLT, Sri Lanka Telecom. Friends who worked in the local ICT industry, and so mentioned, list is quite long, so I'm not going to try and mention, but the help and assistance came from them. Japanese International Cooperation Agency, JICA, Overseas Development Administration of the British Council, Asia Foundation, members and the Committee of LUCNET, a not-for-profit organization registered in the US. If I have missed out anyone, I'm sure you'll pardon. Finally, I would like to thank Professor Gihan Dias, the current president of the Internet Society of Sri Lanka chapter, and the executive committee for organizing this event. And lastly, thank you all for sacrificing your very valuable time, which you should have been spending with your loved ones today, in these festivities and celebrations. Thank you all for being here. And with your permission, I'm going to do a very short presentation, and I will try to also do a short one. I have chosen the topic the internet where it is taking us to talk a few things. But before I talk about where it is taking us, I think it would be proper to set the stage and talk about a little bit about how it all began, where we have been in terms of the global internet, what is its present state, and to do that I'm going to use 6 big things as my cues for the journey. I'm sure everyone who's here today recognizes his name, Bin Cerf. He's treated as the father of internet. That's him. And he started his work during the ARPANET project, the Advanced Research Agency network project in the US. This is the predecessor of the internet. And he co-invented TCP/IP protocol. Again, you all know, because you configure computers, laptops, mobile phones, that's the underlying protocol that helps the internet work. And he co-invented with Bob Kahn. That resulted in setting up in the early 70s what is known as the IPv4, the version 4 internet we have been using over the last 3 decades. I'm going to come back to it later. I will not say any more than that, but to say that right now 2.5 to 3 billion people use the internet for whatever they do with in 2012. Ray Tomlinson, he invented email. Now again, this is very early days of the internet. He chose the @ sign, the famous @ that everybody used to connect your name with the locations and or the destination address. He also created what is known as send message email user agent, which was the only user agent at that time. Now, of course, we have both different user agents that we use. Also designed an early email protocol which laid the foundation for SMTP, which is currently a prominent protocol in the internet. The impact of all that is people exchange more than 4 million emails every second. He was inducted again to the Internet Hall of Fame in 2012. Bob Metcalfe invented Ethernet. And if you look at it, 1.2 billion new ports are shipped each year. 400 million wired and 800 million wireless. And of course the shift is towards wireless. Eventually wired will become insignificant, but again 1 billion ports are shipped every year. Internet Hall of Fame 2030. We honor this character, Tim Berners-Lee, who invented World Wide Web. It's very interesting that the 25th anniversary of the World Wide Web was March 2014, and the LEARN proposal was around the same time. So when Tim was working on his World Wide Web project, we were thinking about somehow connecting the universities together. The interesting thing is that we didn't have any attractive applications to show to people, policymakers, politicians who were taking decisions, as Professor Mendes said. We had to convince them to give us money, but we had very little to show. If we had the World Wide Web at that time, if politicians were carrying smartphones and Facebook accounts and tweeting their constituents, the job would have been much easier. It was not the case because he had not invented the World Wide Web at that time. Currently, 1 billion websites, which will grow to 2 billion by 2015. 1.7 billion indexed web pages. So again, large scale applications. So Internet Hall of Fame 2012. The fifth big thing about the internet is the invention of or the proposal to replace the IP version 4 by IP version 6. Bob Hinden, he's one of the co-inventors of IPv6. The IPv6 is called the Internet Root Call New Generation. He also built the first operational Internet root and firewall. He was awarded the IEEE Internet Award in 2008. Now, when I said I will use 6 things to talk about where we have been and how we have got here. And the last topic was the IPv6. Why is this excitement about IPv6? First thing is it provides a large address space, 3.4 into 10 to the power 38 addresses, compared to 4.2 billion that was available in IPv4. So if you want to put in context, they are 40 trillion addresses. But that's a number that is not easy to comprehend. But if you think that everyone in the world could have a billion IP addresses for every second of their life, that's the numbers. Or if you look at a human body, which contains 10 to the 14 cells, each cell in every human body on Earth could have 2 into 10 to the power 13 possible addresses. So that is the address space that is available to us. Now, when you have such address space, people will want to connect things. It will not be very far when you have your chair connected to the internet. So when somebody sits, the chair will know who sat on it, probably the weight, the BMI, and other vital statistics, and it will be fed to some server somewhere, and people will be analyzing it. So they predict that there will be 3 network devices per person on Earth by 2016. So that's easily 20 billion devices, 7 billion. They predict by 2020 there will be 200 billion devices connected. They are all smart devices, not just dumb devices. By 2020 this will be a $26 billion industry. So that is what is excitement. So from a very small experimental setup in the US, connecting again 4 nodes together. Learn was 3, but the original ARPANET was 4 nodes together. They have now grown into billions and billions of nodes. And also the excitement is because people see the potential of connecting things together and exchanging data, which could be used for multiple different purposes. So the next big thing that we expect is the Internet of Things. And here the things, the word things is used to describe objects, and these objects are smart objects. Being smart, they have the capacity to collect and distribute data and exchange data. I'm going to use a couple of video clips to set the scene before I go to the demonstration.
So I'm quite excited about this, although there are some big challenges ahead. There may be literally billions of devices, light bulbs that, like Philips makes a light bulb called Hue. It's controllable from your mobile, and you change the color as well as the intensity of the light. I mean, it's amazing. Of course, only a geek would love that right now, and they're fairly expensive, but I think it's a very good example of what's possible. So the thing I like about it is that we may be able to manage quite a wide range of appliances that surround us every day at home, in the office, at work, in the car. Maybe also things that we are wearing, or things that we actually might even have embedded in our bodies, sensors that are helping us track our vital signs and our health status.
Now, one thing I do want to say is you do not need to be connected to Wi-Fi to do this. If I hit the menu, you can see this log into my Hue little screen right here. And what you can do with that is actually log in, make an account, and pair it with your bridge. And then without being on Wi-Fi, you can be across the country. And you can control the lights without being in your house. Really cool feature. And with MyHue, you can also download and share other people's light recipes. And then that way you don't have to make your own, and you can go off of other people's creativity.
New services and products. The one thing that we should be very worried about is that the software which manages all this stuff may be penetrated or compromised in some way, and so the scenario might be, the Bank of America succumbs to a denial of service attack from 100 million refrigerators in the United States.
I could flash the light, and I can increase for safety reasons. We have limited it to 10 flashes per second. So what basically it tries to show is that it's really good to have Internet of Things, connecting your devices, sharing data, but at the same time there's a danger that unless you take precautions and make your hardware properly secured, people can hack into devices, and that could cause damage and harm to people. If I manage to burn the relay, that means a denial of service. If I manage to burn the relay at a fairly high temperature, that could cause fire. So that's another form of damage. So if people want to commit nefarious actions, there is this possibility because of the nature of the internet. So I hope you got my message, and that is where internet is taking us today. It should be for the common good of the mankind, but at the same time you've got to be careful in developing technologies which could harm people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the inspirational speech. And it's time for the vote of thanks. It's my privilege to have been asked to propose the vote of thanks on this occasion. And I, on behalf of ISOC and the entire organization team, even the special guest in the audience, let me call it creativity of the Internet Information Technology together, and on my own behalf of extended very hearty word of thanks to all the speakers for raising your important work and sharing with us your findings and opinions today. And a big thank you to you, Sir Professor Abhaya Induruwa, towards your efforts and talking about where you are taking us, the internet taking us today. And I must mention our deep sense of appreciation of Professor Abhaya Induruwa. I also wish to express my gratitude toward Professor Gihan Dayas, who provides us encouragement and support to organize this event. And we also would like to acknowledge our gratitude to all the ISOC Exco members who support us to make success on this event. Finally, I would take this opportunity to place on record our hearty thanks to staff of the Renuka City Hotel for perfect logistics support and guidance. And I also extended my thanks to all the members whom I cannot mention individually for their numerous cooperation in the organization of organizing this event. I cannot thank everyone on behalf enough for their involvement and their willingness to take on this completion of these tasks beyond their comfort zones. Vary on these vote of thanks examples till you express more the atmosphere right. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, once again I want to state that we all are most grateful to all speakers on this stage, and we thank you for being with us this evening. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you.
And we wanted to make any comments. I remember Professor Induruwa during the student days, and he was carrying amplifiers and loudspeakers all over the campus to put on to various functions. And of course, today amplifier gives coverage. But that's not the main thing I want to say. I was heading the electronic engineering department, electronic and telecom. Professor Abhaya was electrical engineering, and I was hoping that Professor Induruwa will join the electronics department. Unfortunately, because he was such an electronics oriented person, and of course, maybe fortunately for him, and Professor Abhaya, he joined the electronics, he joined the electrical engineering department.
Okay. I also would like to make a short comment. There was some achievement of Professor Induruwa that was not highlighted at this meeting. Anyway, I thought of mentioning that here. He was also fully involved in the professional body for computers in Sri Lanka, and he served in the council for I think over 10 years or so, during which time he did a very dedicated contribution to the profession and the industry. And we staged the the first international IT conference in Sri Lanka in 1995 that was named as SIAC 95. And Professor Induruwa was the chairman of the conference proceedings committee, and he got very well-known speakers from around the world. Even Steve Wozniak got down, who was the founder of Apple, isn't it? Yeah, co-founder of Apple Computers, who made a keynote address at the conference. And his contribution was such that he made the conference a very big event. There were many chairmen. However, as in cricket, he was declared man of the match of that conference.
So thank you very much. So we will close the proceedings. So we had the refreshment beforehand. So there is